Dave is working. Good evening, everyone. Today is our second Monday of the month, and as usual, we have our meetings in English. We didn't have it last month, though. We had our event, our annual event that happens every June, and because of the topics and because of the people who came here to talk to us, we decided to not have one special topic in English last month, but then we are back to our normal schedule and we are back to our meetings in English every second Monday of the month. So today, Nancy, our dear friend, would be here to talk to us, to read the message from the book Our Daily Bread, and then give a special, have a special conversation with us. But she had a problem at her work, and she apologized and asked me to replace her. So, unfortunately for you, I'm going to be here the whole night. So, but before we start, let's do our initial prayer. Then we will read the message, and we will take from there. So by raising our thoughts even higher, connecting to our dear friends, the good spirits who surround us, going even further, and connecting with our dear friend, our Master Jesus, we would like to say, God, our Creator, Creator of this entire universe, and also of our yet small hearts, we are thankful once again for having the chance to be here at this little spot of light so that we can receive the guidance that comes from you, from your heart, from your love, through the passages of our brother, our Master, our friend Jesus, and the gospel that he came to show us, not only to tell us, not only to talk to us, but to exemplify for us, so that we can follow his footsteps and be guided by him as the model that we should be looking forward to be. May these blessings that we feel every moment of our lives be even more intensified tonight so that we can together, thinking about you, thinking about your love, about your light, about your presence, we can really feel it and be transformed by it. May these blessings touch us, the ones that we can see and the ones that we cannot see. And may these blessings allow us to grow further, closer to you. So be it. So as I said, we're going to read this passage from the book Our Daily Bread, and the message is message number 91. And I guess that's your problem. Well, that's the title of the message. So that's my problem too. So the title of the message is That's Your Problem. And it's taken from the Gospel according to Matthew, chapter 27, verse number 4. And Matthew wrote, "And he, Judas, said, I have sinned by betraying innocent blood. But they responded, what is that to us? That's your problem." And then Emmanuel makes the following comment. "The word of human evil is always cruel to those who listen to its criminal insinuations. The case of Judas demonstrates the irresponsibility and wickedness of all those who perpetrate grave wrongs. If the incautious spirit listens to evil suggestions, it will soon become aware of the loneliness that surrounds it in the sphere of unfortunate consequences. Those who act uprightly will discover that the happy results of their initiative yields a flood of friends who want to share in their victories. On the other hand, they will rarely find anyone who wants to share in their afflictions on days of temporary defeat. Such a reality should lead one to be more cautious. Most people repeat Judas's bitter experience every day, although in a different manner. There are those who listen to the offensive insinuations of malice or disobedience regarding their inner tranquility, family matters, and daily work. Sometimes people live peacefully as they carry out their duties. However, envious or despairing suggestions reach them and they get confused by erroneous perspectives and inadvertently enter mazes of darkness and ingratitude. When they realize the error of their heart or mind, they anxiously return to their counselors of the day before. However, reiterating Judas's remark, they mockingly ask, "What is that to us? That's your problem." I would highly recommend reading this message again. This, uh, I will explain it as simple as I can, but it's a very powerful message for us, for every single one of us. Everybody knows Judas' story. Right? He comes to Jesus and he kisses Jesus, gives him a kiss. And so that the guard who are there, they can come and seize Jesus and bring him to justice, and he ends up being killed. Judas, of course, and as we know by the story, and we know through the mediumship of Chico Xavier as well, and so many other studies have found this. And a few years ago, there was this Gospel of Judas that was discovered, and the story was retold. And it's interesting to see on that Gospel, in that piece of document that was found and translated, that Judas was actually a very good friend of Jesus. And there he exposes why he did what he did. We know that what he did, he wanted, and he had, unfortunately, this idea that he would, by selling Jesus, he would be able to gather money to put the idea of Jesus ahead. And but he, of course, thought that by doing this, Jesus would not be killed. He would probably get rid of all the, um, the policemen, the guards, and everything would be okay. But Jesus, this is not Jesus' um, way of doing things. When once he notices what he did, of course he repents. But what can he do now? Right? What can he do? Now it's done, and unfortunately, he takes another terrible step and takes up his own life, kills himself. But in the meantime, and that's where this piece comes from, he comes back to those who told him to do, or told him that if he would do it, he would be paid, and said, "Oh, but I'm going to be responsible for killing a person who is not guilty." Innocent blood. He's innocent blood. It's like, let's say, saying, I'm going to have innocent blood on my hands because I did this and it's not supposed to happen. And what is the answer that he gets from those who he goes and talks to? He says, "That's not my problem." Um, And Emmanuel takes this passage, takes this passage to not to condemn Judas, not to condemn those who did it, but to open up our eyes and make us think about the suggestions that we receive from the world. And what are we doing with those suggestions? So I have this goodwill of doing something, of going out and helping a person or doing something good for myself, for my family, for somebody. And then all of a sudden we have this suggestion, oh, why are you going to waste your time in this? Why are you going to do this? Why do you need to do this every week? Why are you going to spend your money doing this? Why? And then it comes all these suggestions that will come to us and say, you shouldn't be doing this. This is not the thing for you to do. This is not the thing for you to be doing right now. What's happening? Why are you doing this? And then what we listen, we hear, and we say, yeah, I'm not going to do it. Or I'm going to take your suggestion and, oh, it's just 10 cents, so let me take this 10 cents. Oh, it's just $1, let me take this $1. Then what happens is, if we get caught on what we just did wrong, and then we come back to that person and said, oh, but you told me to do it. You said that I should do this. And what will that person tell us? So, you did it, not me. Because sometimes, and I wouldn't say sometimes, most of the times, we are very happy to be with a friend that is very happy. To be celebrating with a friend that's celebrating. But how many of us are there when the same friend that we celebrate a lot of things is in need of help? Is it going to be the same amount of people that are together in his house when the person is rich, or the person is, when the person is having a birthday party or having this good thing in good times? And then once the person is suffering, once the person is going through hardship, going through hard times, then their friends just suddenly disappear. The question is, and we all know the answer to this, I assume, is this person a real friend? Or is it just a person that is there to enjoy the good times, and if you're going through a hardship, then let me get out of here because I'm not going to be together so that I don't need to go down with you. So the question here becomes, who are we? Because it is easy for us to want to have a good friend. Oh, I want to have a good friend. Oh, this person is really a great friend. This person is really a great friend. This other person is really a great friend. But the question is not, who is a great friend to me? The question is, who am I a great friend to? What is it that I am doing that makes me be the person that I want other people to be to me? So Emmanuel makes this point that sometimes we listen and we hear things that people are saying, and we tend to kind of use the things that they're saying or inviting us to do as an excuse for us to do it. But then when we come back to that person and say, hey, but you made me do it, he said, oh, I'm sorry, it's your problem. You did it, not me. So he's calling us to really pay attention to the suggestions that we are receiving, to really stop and think and take responsibility on what we're doing, and not to expect the evil to be there when I need it. And if I don't want evil to be there, just let evil pass. Let these bad suggestions go away. Or they will come and say, "Oh, I'm not going to listen to you. I'll listen to the next one. If the next one is bad, let it pass." And then one time, we will listen to something and say, "Okay, now I'm going to do it." So um, hopefully, we are already paying attention to these suggestions that we receive from day to day, here and then, and listening to the good ones and putting those ones into practice. We all know that you know, um, we receive invitations every single day of all kinds of sorts to do this, to do that. And in the end, it will be up to us. What have you done? What have I done? What did I do with my life? Not what others wanted you to do. Like my mom used to say when I was growing up and my brothers and sisters were growing up, um, if we did something bad at home, she would, and then I would say, or one of my brothers, one of my sister would say, "Oh, but my friend told me to do it." And then she would look at me and look at my brothers or sisters and she would say, "Oh, so you're saying that if your friend asked you to eat mud, you would do it?" And of course, we would say no. So then why did you do it? What he told you to do if you knew it was wrong. So don't blame him. You are the responsible. You are the person who did it. So take and assume your responsibility. So hopefully, this is a lesson learned, and hopefully, we are really striving to do the best that we can with our lives and with the opportunity of being here once again. Which leads me to the end of the message. Once again, chapter 91 of the book Our Daily Bread. Uh, That's your problem. That's the title of the message. And leads me to the main topic of the night, which is the beginning of a new chapter in the Gospel according to Spiritism, a book by Allan Kardec, and with messages from the good spirits as well. But it's one of the books where he takes, or is the book where he takes pieces of the Gospels, of parts of the New Testament, mostly, and makes comments on it, just similar to what Emmanuel does in these books that I just read one message. And chapter 4 is entitled, "Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of God." So it's a chapter where we talk about this concept that in Spiritism is very, very clear, but it raises questions, it raises doubts, it raises chapter 4, resurrection and reincarnation. So I'll be talking about from items 1 to 17, going back and forth. It's a lot of things, but 17. From 1 to 17, I'll be talking about this. This topic will be divided in 2 weeks, or in two talks. When we made the program for this month and for next month, because these topics are these are 17 topics merged into, and they all talk about the same thing. What we did was we set up to talk about resurrection and reincarnation in two parts. This month I'm going to be here, and I'm here already talking about it. And next month, Hendrik will be here, and he will cover the same topic again. Since we are two different people, he'll probably talk different things. So I think that both together, talking about the same topic, we'll have a broader idea of what resurrection and reincarnation really are. So what's the idea of this topic? And it is very important for us as a start to understand one thing, or to think about one thing that I think it's really, really important to know. Kardec, when he is organizing the Gospel according to Spiritism, which is this book, we're going step by step, reading parts of the chapters and going slowly going throughout the book. We had the introduction. We already covered chapter 1. We already covered chapters 2 and 3, and now we're going to chapter 4. So Kardec is building a knowledge. So it is not something, or this is not a book, although it can be read like, oh, I'm just going to read a passage from the Gospel according to Spiritism. Open up a page and then read it. It's perfectly fine. It will make sense on its own. However, if we want to really deeply know more about Jesus's ideas, about what Jesus's main concerns and main teachings are, Kardec organized this book in a way that everything is being built on top. Every chapter is built on top of the previous chapter. So chapter 1 talks about, I have not come to destroy the law. So Kardec says in the first chapter, taking Jesus's words, he's saying, look, I am here, Jesus is here, and I didn't come to take whatever we had before and throw it out and bring out new stuff. No, what I'm doing is I am fulfilling the law. I came to observe everything that was written and is being done, and I'm going to show you how to do it. That's the first chapter. Then second chapter, he says, look, if you think, and we just talked about Judas here, if you think that the kingdom that I come here to bring is something material, you're not listening, you're not here to the right, listening to the right person. You should go look for somebody else, because the kingdom that I'm going to show it to you is not a material kingdom. It's not a kingdom of crowns. It's not a kingdom of high castles. It's not a kingdom of lots of money. No, that's not the kingdom that I'm here for. I'm here to talk about a different type of kingdom, a spiritual life, something bigger than that. Then comes the third chapter, when he talks about, and we just finished 2 months ago talking about this chapter, when he explains that there are different levels of people, there are different levels of worlds, that we evolve, that we grow. And for us to do that, planets, worlds around the universe, all of them, they have their parts, just like cells, just like small pieces of the tree. The flowers have their duties, the leaves have their duties, the birds, every single piece have their own duties. So this is chapters 1, 2, and 3. And now, how do we evolve? That's the question. Okay, Jesus says, and we covered this on chapter 3, we need to grow, we need to evolve, we need to be perfect, and there will be a chapter later on talking about this, specifically about this. But how then do we grow? How do we evolve? How do we progress? And there comes chapter 4, when Kardec will discuss the idea that there is no way for us to progress. There is no way for us to really become a higher level spirit if we don't, if we are not born again. And that's the main idea of the whole chapter. Except a man be born again, he cannot see the kingdom of heaven. And by men here, of course, we're not talking just about men, we're talking about humans, right? Men and women. That's one way of saying it. So Kardec starts this chapter by discussing something that is very important, which is the idea of resurrection versus the idea of reincarnation. And he wants to make it very clear that there's a difference between these two ideas. Although, depending on how you see the word, you can see that both ideas are the same, but not as usually taken. Because what is resurrection? Resurrection is the idea that a person dies And then there will come a day in the future where that body that was there, that is buried, will raise from the dead and then will come to be alive again. That's the idea of resurrection. What's the idea of reincarnation? It's the idea that we will have an opportunity to be born again as a spirit that we are, that we will be reconnected to another body, that we will be reconnected to another woman's body, and then we will be born again. But before we get to the explanations, one thing that Kardec does here that I find to be very, very interesting is that he starts the chapter with 3 different passages from the New Testament, because there's something that happens that is important for us to remember, that when Spiritism starts talking about reincarnation and people start asking questions and saying, oh, there isn't reincarnation in the Bible. Nobody mentions reincarnation. And the idea here is, of course, we don't need to discuss, we don't need to argue about it. There's no need for that. But if we were to talk about the concept of light, for example, right? We have a fluorescent light here. We have LED lights right there. We have a sound right there, a stereo with speakers on the walls, right? How could Jesus talk about speakers? How could Jesus talk about fluorescent lights? How could Jesus talk about LED lights? He could never talk about these things. Why? Because there were no words for this, or the words were different. But he could talk about concepts, right? He could talk about the concept of voice, the concept of sound, the concept of light. Hence, for example, when he talks about if you have a bushel, if you have a lamp, you don't put it under the bushel. You put it on top of the wall or on top of the table so that that lamp can light up the whole house. But if you put it under the table, it will be dark. So there's a place to put the light, right? And yesterday we were discussing here how modernly, or some houses, and here in the United States is like that, but I was remembering yesterday that even in Brazil, before coming here, there was this kind of a movement where architects didn't want to put lights on the ceilings anymore. They just want like shades on the house. They want abajurs or lamps on the house. They don't want to put anything in the ceiling. And here is mostly like that. But if we put it on top, it lights up much more. If we don't want that much, then we can put it down, we can put it on the sides, or we can put less light coming from the top. It's our choice. But the point is not talking about fluorescent light or LED light or incandescent light. Jesus could not talk about it like that. Jesus needed to talk about the idea of light. So he talked about light. And maybe that's one of the reasons why people don't see reincarnation on the Bible. There will be no word reincarnation in the Bible because there was no such word back then. You could never use that word. But if the idea of reincarnation is to be born again, and he said that a man needs to be born again, then reincarnation is there in the Bible. So it is, to me at least, and to how we see it in Spiritism and how we study in Spiritism, that not only we mostly study the Christian teachings, but if we go to lots of different religions, we will see this concept of us needing to be better people. And how can we be better people if we only live 80 years, 60 years, 50 years, 35 years? How can we really, really, really be knowledgeable of all this universe that we have. It takes us 40 years to be a good doctor or more. It takes us 50 years, 60 years to be a great lawyer. And how come a great lawyer can be a great doctor at the same time? So can you imagine how much knowledge he would need to have, and with what time? If for us to be a good lawyer, or to be a good math teacher, or to be a good whatever profession we want, it takes us one lifetime to be. How can we be more than that in one lifetime? So this concept of constantly progressing is not only in Christianity, but since that's what we are studying here, that's what mostly we study, we find it here. And we have Jesus talking specifically about this with different people. And opening another parenthesis here. As we usually say, and we say, oh, Jesus and Christianity, and Jesus is the founder of Christianity, and all those things. But at the time when Jesus was living, there was no such thing as Christianity. What was there was Judaism. Not even with this name were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and all the other smaller groups that learned and that used to study the scriptures. And Jesus was studying the same scriptures as everybody else. No different scriptures. What we read here today that Matthew wrote, that John wrote, that Paul wrote, these all came after Jesus died. So he was not reading Matthew. He was actually doing something. So Jesus, in that sense, he is a Jew. He is a Jew man that was born in that area where basically everybody that was born, if they were not Romans, they were born into Jew families or Jewish families. So Jesus was, for that matter, a Jewish man. In everything that he was learning from those older Jewish people, either women that took care of young boys, and the women were the ones who used to teach the boys up to 13 years of age. So Mary was probably the one who instilled in Jesus all the sensibility that if he needed any. But the mother, usually that's what she used to do, and she instilled in him the idea that he needed to study, needed to do whatever he was supposed to do. And then after 13, then he would go out with his father and learn with his father and so on. So he was Jewish. He was reading the Old Testament, just like everybody else was reading. So why does Jesus come to men, just like Peter or John or any other of his disciples, and ask them, and I'm going to read. This is in Matthew 16, 13, 17, and Mark chapter 8, 27 to 30. So Jesus says, they say, right? When Jesus came to the region of Caesarea of Philippi, he asked his disciples. So right now, Jesus is talking to his disciples. Peter, Bartholomew, Andrew, one of his disciples, or some of them. And then he asks, who do people say the Son of Man is? So, look, guys, you're out there, you're talking to a lot of people. I have a question for you. Who are those people saying that I am? Who do people outside say that I am? They replied, some say that you are John the Baptist. Others say that you are Elijah. And others say that you are Jeremiah or one of the other prophets. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird that when you ask something to a person, let's say, what is this, for example? And then a person says, oh, this is a battery. Or other will say, oh, this is a TV. Others say this is a cell phone. Others will say this is a chair. Okay, everybody knows that this is a cell phone. Here, at least, I hope. If a person says that this is a TV, where does that person take that idea from? How can a person have an answer that this is a TV if the person doesn't know or haven't heard of a TV before? So the person might not know that this is a cell phone, but the person looks at this and sees, oh, it has somewhat the shape of a TV. Maybe it's a small TV. And then the person say, oh, this is a TV. But what if it's a person from the 1900s? Would that person say that this is a TV? Of course not, because the person doesn't even know what a TV is. Never heard of a TV. Never heard. The person will never, of course, tell that this is a cell phone. Doesn't even have the concept of a telephone yet. So, if Jesus asks the disciples, who do people say that I am? And the disciples bring them the idea that the people are saying that he is Elijah. Well, Elijah was one of the prophets. Jeremiah was another one of the prophets that lived maybe 1,000 years before Jesus. Okay, why would they say that? If they didn't have in their minds the concept that a person could be reborn. It's like saying, I'm going to say it's a TV because I have the concept of a TV. Even though it doesn't look like it, but or maybe, I don't know, maybe that's what it is. So if the people would never have the idea of what reincarnation is, of the idea of returning is, they would never put that up front. Because they wouldn't know it. They would say a lot of things except for the idea of reincarnation. And there are other examples here, and Jesus will ask, who do you say that I am? And then they will say, oh, you are the Christ, Son of the living God. And then he explains and goes on there. Another very important thing to know about Jesus is this. If you come to Jesus in the Gospels and tell him something that's wrong, what will he do? Usually he will say that's wrong. This is not the right thing to do. And he will tell you that this is not right. So, for example, people come to tempt him, and then they say, should we pay the tribute to Caesar or not? And he knows that those guys that are surrounding him want to play tricks on him and say, oh, look, if he says it's to pay, then he will be bad on this side. If he says it's not good, you should not pay, then we can imprison him and put him in jail. So they're putting him in that situation that basically or apparently he has no escape. He will not leave it quiet. He will ask for a coin and say, what do you see in this coin? Who is this figure here? Caesar. Okay? Give Caesar
what is Caesar's and give God what is God's. He is teaching a lesson to all of us, but he is not saying, he is actively saying that, look, I know that you want to catch me. You're not going to catch me because that's not what I came here for. You see, it's Caesar. Give it to Caesar. And he will explain it. So if this idea of him being Elijah or him being Jeremiah was wrong, he would have said, get away from me. You're devils, or whatever he would call it. But he doesn't do that. He accepts the idea because he understands that the people have this idea of a person being able to be reborn again, to be born again. They don't know how it happens. They don't know the mechanisms of this happening in their lives, but they know that it happens because the Jewish, they would talk about it. There was only one ramification of Judaism at the time, or the Jewish at the time, that did not believe in reincarnation or resurrection because they didn't even believe that when they died, they would go somewhere. They were more like a materialistic Judaism than real Judaism. They thought that when they died, it's over. But all of the Pharisees and many others would say that we continue and we are able to be born again. And Kardec takes two other examples, or actually many more examples throughout the chapter to explain it. And one that is very, very important for the idea of resurrection and reincarnation is the talk that he has with Nicodemus, which is, there's almost nothing so as clear as what he says. And Kardec goes into very deep discussion about this conversation that he has with Nicodemus, and even going into science to explain what this conversation is about, when Jesus says that what is born from water is water, what is born from spirit is spirit, clearly making this division of body and soul and so on and so forth. So what is important for us to remember is that science today, and I'm closing a bunch of parentheses so that we can start to get to the end of our conversation, or the first part of our conversation about resurrection and reincarnation, is that the idea of resurrection, and it is based on a lot of assumptions of things that we have to take it as miracles. And for example, once we die, we will be resurrected, right? And people will even go to the point of saying that it will be a body resurrection, will be a physical body resurrection. How can this be possible? Physically, how can this be possible? So the idea is, if we are at a cemetery, right, then all my ashes became part of what the ground is, and then became trees, became parts of other living creatures. And oh God, imagine how much trouble God would have to go through to rebuild those physical bodies. But let's not go that path, because I clearly understand or believe that if we need to get to that point when trying to explain to people why resurrection doesn't make sense, then I personally believe that we should not go that path, because it really doesn't increase or improve the discussion. Then there's some people who say, but we are not talking about resurrection of the body. We're talking about resurrection of the soul. And that's a very good point. And the question is, what is that different than the reincarnation idea? The main difference is that one is just complementary to the other. Because for us to resurrect spiritually, we just need to die. As soon as we die, we resurrect because we didn't die. And basically, all religions believe this. All spiritualistic religions, at least. No, doesn't matter if we are Catholics, if we are Protestants, if we are Jewish, if we are Spiritists. We all believe that once we die, what dies is the body. And that's it. So the moment that we die, the moment that the body dies, we are already resurrected. We are already, and we are still living. So that's the main idea. The question then becomes, why then Jesus didn't focus on that? Why didn't he stop there? Why didn't he say that a man needs to be born again? Why did he say that to Nicodemus? Why didn't he, right there when Nicodemus asked, oh, but how can we go back? Well, how can we come back to the womb of my mother? Jesus could have said, oh no, that's not how it happens. This doesn't happen. That's what he would have said. Because that's how he did it so many times. But no, he says, look, you don't understand while I'm talking about simple things. How do you want me to go deeper into things that it's even harder for us to understand? There will be a time, there will come a time when we will have more tools, more ideas, and more ways to express these things better, and then we will understand. But know this, Nicodemus. Spirit is spirit. Body is body. What comes from the body is the body. What comes from spirit is a spirit. We need to be born again. We need to go through the cycle, just like everything else needs to go. And the body is, and Jesus says water at one point, then later on he will refer to flesh, which is our body physically. So he is actually, when he is using the word water, he's actually referring to the flesh that will be made out of flesh of my mom again. And then my spirit, who is who I am, will be in contact again with that body and will be able to return, to grow and to do whatever we need to do. Because, and remember that when I was starting, I said that Kardec is building the blocks, first chapter, second chapter, third chapter. I said that on chapter 2, Jesus said that his kingdom is not of this world, right? And what is interesting is that in this passage with Nicodemus, he says that again, and he repeats it in a different way, but he says that. He says, truly I say to you that no one can see the kingdom of God unless he is reborn. We will not be able to really see. And what is this see? What is this look at? What is this really see? So, another parenthesis here. If an artist comes here, to this center right now, and sees this art installation here, the artist will look at this and he will see things, or she will see things that we cannot see. But we are looking at the same thing. Why do I say that? Because an artist has his or her eyes trained, and they will see, oh, she used this technique to paint she used that technique to do this. She used this technique to do that. They will have eyes that can see things that I cannot see. Then comes the question, how can we see the kingdom of God? What do we have to learn and go through to really see the kingdom of God? And by seeing, I'm really saying seeing everything. Like if we were Superman or Supergirl, right? Would look at this and would see, even from far away, that this tree is not a true tree. Because we would see with our X-ray vision what's inside. And we would see that this tree that is right here is made out of wood, but not of real wood, wood from the tree. Pieces of wood that were constructed, and there's something around it. From far away, a person would see those grapes and say, oh, that's plastic grapes. So seeing the kingdom of God requires more than one try, more than two tries, more than three tries, and more than how many tries? Because we need to go through the process of learning and learning and learning. And we will start to see things differently the more we learn. The more we learn different things, we will see things differently. And we will merge this knowledge together so that we can start to become better people by putting this knowledge into practice. By becoming what I am studying, by becoming what I am learning, by really doing what I'm hopefully I am learning. So when Jesus talks to Nicodemus, he is looking at him and saying, oh, how hard it is to explain something to a 6-year-old and make that 6-year-old understand what we are saying. Because there's so many things that we have to go through to really grasp what an adult is trying to tell a 6-year-old. And we have to tell it in stages, in different levels, so that we can be putting these things together to increase the knowledge so that we have places where we can step and feel comfortable so that we can go to the next level. And that we can go to the next level. So by bringing up this idea that we have more than one life, that we have more than one opportunity to learn, Jesus starts to open up a whole new world of ideas. And he is trying to show us that although some people look at the idea of reincarnation and can see the idea of reincarnation as a bad idea, and I understand why, it's not the idea that it's a bad idea. It's what we do with the idea that can make it turn into a bad idea. So I will give you an example. A power outlet where we can grab our fans, we can put our microphones, a lamp, plug a TV, the charger to a cell phone, then we can get our power supply, plug it there, and plug our cell phones, our electrical equipment, and there will come energy out of it, and we will have energy to do whatever we need. A vacuum cleaner, a fan, an air conditioning with this heat wave that's outside, which is really good. Is a power outlet a bad idea or a good idea? I would say that the power outlet itself is not a good idea, not a bad idea. It is there. Because there can be a person that uses the power outlet to plug something that will harm another person. Whatever it is, an electric chair, and then to kill a person. So the idea of reincarnation is, as if we, in calling the idea of reincarnation a bad idea or a bad law, is the same as saying that the law of gravity is a bad law or a good law. It makes no sense to say that gravity is a good law or a bad law. It is a law. It is there. We need to learn how to deal with the law. We need to learn what to take from the law, how to use the concept, and to understand that my life is governed by that law. That's why people like to lose weight, so that they are not that affected by the law of gravity. They can be lighter, they can walk faster, they can have less problems in their knees, on their feet. What about the law of reincarnation? It is bad for those who say, oh, if I'm going to be born again, then I'll do it next life. Then it's a bad law. Because we are leaving for tomorrow what we should be doing today. And that makes it a bad law. But it's not the law itself. It's my choice of what to do with the law. I don't want to break my phone, so every time I drop it, I either drop it from a very low distance from where I'm standing, so it doesn't break, or if I want to try it, I can drop it from here to the ground. And I'm not going to do it because I know that the law is there. But it's my choice on what to do. The idea of reincarnation, which was not created by Spiritism, and I didn't say that yet, and I had to say that, it is an idea, it is a law that governs everything, just like gravity, just like the attraction of one body to the other due to its mass. The bigger the planet, more gravity it will have, more attraction to the things that are on the surface we will have. So we would die, of course, but we would weigh much more if we lived in Jupiter, for example, because of the size of Jupiter. And if we are on the moon, everybody saw the pictures or the movies, the taping of men walking on the moon. They jump and then they almost fly. Why? Because gravity there is smaller, it has less effect, because the moon is a smaller planet. The law of reincarnation works for all of us, for all creatures, telling us that to understand God's justice, if we believe in God, and if we see and if we believe that God is all powerful, all love, all just, we can see God's love in nature. We can see God's love in the creation of the universe. How can we see God's love when we see a child that was born in the same family, to the same parents? One is completely perfect physically, and the other one is completely deformed, has a lot of problems in their minds. Where is justice right there? If God is just, where is justice right there? Where is justice in my case? I read this post this week, and that's how I'm going to finish today. I read this post this week when a person said, I am the guy on the right. So there was a picture, a drawing of two boys. It was the drawing of two boys going up a set of stairs. They go climbing the stairs. And the stairs represented education. So the higher they were, more educated they were. But the steps were this big, and the boys were this big. So can you imagine how hard it was for him to come from here to here? But there were two boys, I said. The boy on the left had the steps this way. The boy on the right was rich. His father built smaller steps between the big steps. So he was climbing easier to go to the top, while the other one was struggling. Where is justice there? And we say that we can all reach the same level. We can all reach higher, and we are not, that everybody has the same chance. In the way we live in the world, not everybody has the same opportunities. I am one that had a lot of opportunities. I'm glad that I was able to see that and took chance and really didn't waste the opportunity to study, to go and do what my father and my mother taught me. And so I'm blessed because of that. But I know that there are a lot of other people who could have gone as far as I did, but they didn't have the chance to do it. Not on this life. Where is justice there? Why am I more privileged than those? Why am I less privileged than others? Where is justice when we see that? If we don't have the concept of reincarnation, we cannot see. It's much harder to see God's justice in play in the world. We can see love, like I said. We can see a lot of other things, but justice is very hard. Through the lenses of reincarnation, through the lenses of seeing that my life today depends on my life of yesterday, then something opens up and say, that makes sense. It might not solve the problem. I may still be angry. I may still be, why did it come to me? Because I don't remember. Why is it happening to me? But at least it gives me the opportunity of thinking of God as a just God. Loving and just. So, and these are only two of God's concepts, of course. So this idea of justice is what reincarnation brings to us, is what we need to look at and take from the idea of reincarnation. There is much more to talk about the topic, and that's why we decided to split in two pieces. So I hope that this part is clear. I hope that this part has brought to us, to all of us here, not only to you, but to me as well, some of these ideas to really make us feel, okay, now I have something to think about my own life. I have something to really deeply think about myself and ask myself some questions, but some serious, deep questions, and say, who am I to blame? Or who am I to thank for what I'm going through? Is it God or is it me? What is this process of being born again? So once again, chapter 4, verses items 1 to 17. This is a first part of this two-part series on talking about resurrection and reincarnation. Next month, on the second Monday of August, we will be back. Not me, it will be Hendrik, will be here. He will be talking more about reincarnation and resurrection, and hopefully we will have an even better understanding about the topic. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for sticking to me for this hour and 5 minutes. And Adriana wants to say something. Gonna have classes? Okay. So as we close our meeting for tonight, we will have our passes will be given spiritually, because there's a problem with our room there, and I'm gonna wrap it up with a prayer. Just gonna put a song a little bit higher there so that we can focus a little bit more. But once again, thank you for no aparelho, só do lado, nesse terceiro botão, está escrito computador. Tem uma etiqueta no seu dedo aí.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just roll it. There you go. Okay, so for us to finish this tonight's meeting, I would like to invite everyone to, and I'm going to try to do it a little bit in Portuguese and a little bit in English, so that we can follow the path. So eu vou tentar fazer em português e em inglês ao mesmo tempo, para que a gente possa ir se concentrando numa e outra língua, viajando um pouco, pensando no nosso Mestre Jesus, thinking about our dear Master Jesus, when he was walking among us, quando ele estava andando, caminhando com a gente, by the sea, no lago de Genezaré, by the sea of Genezareth. And I like to remember that Jesus, he was sometimes, and a lot of times, alone by himself, by the sea, looking at the sea. Jesus estava muitas vezes sozinho na beira desse lago, olhando para o lago, meditando. He was there meditating. And I like to think that if Jesus needed to meditate, eu gosto de pensar que se Jesus precisava meditar, e ele meditava, and he would be there to meditate, to pray, who are we not to do the same? Quem somos nós para não precisarmos de meditar, de fazermos uma oração, de entrarmos em contato com Deus? Who are we not to do the same, to pray, to meditate, and become closer with God, our Creator? So remembering Jesus doing that. Então pensando em Jesus ali na beira do lago, right there, in front of the lake, of the big, big sea of Galilee. Raising his thoughts to God, levando o pensamento a Deus. E provavelmente dizendo, Pai de infinito amor. Probably saying, God of infinite love. I am here. Estou aqui contigo mais uma vez. I am here with you one more time. As I am always, como eu estou sempre. But this time, I want to open up to you, mas agora eu quero me abrir para você. Para que o seu amor me preencha. So that your love fulfill me. So that I can feel your presence right by my side, guiding my hands, para que eu possa sentir a sua presença do meu lado, guiando as minhas mãos, para que eu possa tomar as melhores decisões, so that I can take the best decisions in my life. Not decisions that can bring me fortune, that can bring me material wealth. Não decisões apenas para que eu possa ter ganhos materiais ou dinheiro, fortuna. Não. Decisões que me ajudem a me tornar uma pessoa melhor. Decisions, so that I can take decisions that can help me become a better person. So I'm here, Father. Então eu estou aqui, Pai, para agradecer. To thank you. Para agradecer essas bênçãos do meu dia a dia, a oportunidade de estar vivo mais uma vez, to think of the blessings of everyday life, for the opportunity of being here, of being born once again, and having this chance, this big opportunity of my life, whatever that is, essa grande oportunidade que eu tenho de estar vivo, de estar aqui, que seja a oportunidade, da maneira que seja, que eu possa te agradecer. E te agradeço nesse momento por essas bênçãos que caem sobre mim. And I thank you at this moment for these blessings that fall over me. But I also want to ask you, eu também quero te pedir, que me fortaleça, que me dê a força necessária para que eu possa vencer os obstáculos, que eu sei não foram criados por ti, mas por mim mesmo. But I also want to ask you for strength. Ask you for the power to win over my own battles, to surpass any obstacles that I know were not put there because of you and from they were not made from you, but from what I did it myself in the past. So God, help me, help my family, support me, give me this hope that everything shall pass. Pai, me ajude. Ajude a minha família, a todos os meus amigos. Ajude-me a dizer e a perceber que tudo passa, que tudo passará, desde que eu confie em Ti e que eu perceba quanto a mensagem do Cristo é importante em nossas vidas. As long as I believe, as long as I truly believe that the message of love that Christ gave to us is truth, is truthful to your gospel, and if followed, will lead us to a bright future. Que a mensagem do Cristo, quando seguida, nos levará para um futuro mais brilhante, mais feliz, to a happier future. Assim, Pai, chegando ao final das nossas atividades, pedindo as vossas bênçãos e as bênçãos dos Espíritos amigos que aqui estão. So God, while we reach the end of our meeting, we'd like to ask your blessings and the blessings from those spirits who are here with us, that we can take these blessings home within our bodies. Que nós possamos levar essas bênçãos conosco em nossos corpos e espalhar essas bênçãos por onde quer que nós caminhemos. And may we spread these blessings wherever we walk, wherever we talk, através de nossa voz, das nossas atitudes. So God, teach us how to love you, how to love our neighbors, and how to love ourselves. Então, Pai, nos ensina a te amar, amar o nosso próximo e a amar a nós mesmos. E é com essa prece, and with this prayer of humility, essa prece humilde, pedimos para encerrar as nossas atividades da noite de hoje. We ask you so that we can close our activities of tonight in harmony and with love in our hearts, em harmonia, com amor em nossos corações. So be it. Que assim seja. Meus amigos, my friends, sorry. So, I'd like to once again thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight, for staying, for being attentive, for to pay attention to what we had to say. And I hope that you have a great week, and hope you come back for our other meetings. This is the only one in English every month, but we have meetings on Saturday nights, or they're all in Portuguese. Thank you. I'll get it. Every Monday is the same, but in Portuguese as well. We'd like to say that yesterday we had our yard sale here. We had some photos on Facebook showing the arrangements outside. It was really successful. We had a lot of people from the community coming down here, getting stuff. At the end, we donated everything that we couldn't sell. I'd like to thank everybody that was here, that helped either Saturday or came here yesterday. It was really good. Hopefully, we will have other yard sales in the future. to help the institution to keep the doors open and having the opportunity of being here once in a while. I think that's it. I'm not remembering any other major announcements. I would just like to remind everybody about the gospel at home, or as some people prefer to say, the God at home, which is that meeting where we do it once a week or more than once a week if we like, of half an hour, 15 minutes, open a book, read a message, comment the message, discuss the message, so that we can bring a little bit of this environment that we have here at our spiritist centers to our place, to our home. And we will feel that the environment gets much better, gets elevated, because when we're doing this, we're inviting the good spirits more than we usually invite to our houses, so that they can help us with our development and with our home. And having said that, once again, thank you very much for coming. We hope you come back. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Oh, if you want to listen to that again, our page on YouTube has the videos, so you can watch it again and maybe see if you're saying something wrong. So you can correct me and start a discussion. Have a good night, everybody.